I'm Alan with the Toxic Google team. Thanks for coming out and sharing your Thursday, I forget what day it is, Thursday afternoon with us. We got a great little Q&A performance here for you. Inspired by the beloved films, Anastasia transports us from the twilight of the Russian Empire to the euphoria of Paris in the 1920s. As a brave young woman sets out to discover the mystery of her past, pursued by a ruthless Soviet officer determined to silence her, Anya enlists the aid of a dashing, common, and lovable ex-aristocrat. Together, they embark on an epic journey to help find her home, love, and family. We're going to kick this off with a little sizzle and then go straight into a little bit of performance.
Now on Broadway, from the Tony Award-winning creators of Ragtime, a brand new journey begins. Anastasia, the musical, on Broadway. Visit AnastasiaBroadway.com. Get your tickets today.
Dancing bears, painted wings, things I almost remember, and a song someone sings once upon a December. Someone holds me safe and warm. Horses prance through a silver storm, figures dancing gracefully across my memory. Far away long ago, glowing dim as an ember, things my heart used to know, things it used to remember. And a song someone sings once upon a December.
It's been a long time. I hope Lily's happy to see me. How could she not be? I may have gotten fatter, but maybe that won't matter. Bottom line, I'll win her. We'll do some reminiscing. She'll see what she's been missing over wine and dinner. And though I know I've grown a tiny bit gray, some women say I look distinguished this way. I'll bow as if I'm still a frisky young pup. Ooh, let's hope that I can straighten up. If she says no, we'll go lay low and we'll go from there.
Head shaking, heart thundering, meet the royal mess. Start smiling, stop wondering, why did I say yes?
This chance is all I've got. Keep a grip and take a deep breath, and soon we'll know what's what. Put on our show, rewards will flow, and we'll go from there.
We'll go from there.
Oh, what a lovely ride, and what a lovely day for a totally illegal, lovely getaway.
but maybe that won't matter. Bottom line, I'll win her. Start smiling. She'll say what she's wondering. What did I say? And dinner. This ship will trust me. Some women say I'm a sneaking Christian way. I'll bow as if I'm still a frisky young pup. Let's hope that I can straighten up, but no more doubt.
No time to spare.
We're nearly out.
So let's prepare. We're on our way to who knows where, and we'll go from there.
We'll go from there.
Thank you all for coming. Let's go down the line here and introduce yourselves and who you are on the show.
My name is Christy Altomare, and I play Anya in Anastasia.
I'm John Bolton. I play Vlad.
And I'm Zach Adkins. I'm the understudy for Dimitri in the ensemble.
How much of the original movies did the three of you actually know about before getting cast in this? It was based on 2 movies, right?
Yes, the 1956 with Ingrid Bergman and Yul Brynner, and then the cartoon with Liz Calloway and
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan.
Cusack, Kelsey Grammer.
Oh yeah,
Cast.
Bernadette Peters.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
She played Lily.
I knew more about the history, though, like the
Yeah.
actual history, because my parents had the book Nicholas and Alexandra when I was a kid, and hit true crime, sort of hit, the demise of the Romanovs, and of course Russian history. And in it were photographs, and there's kids in the story. I'm like, oh, there's kids in it. And I didn't know they were all murdered, but there were
Yeah.
kids.
And Nicholas and Alexandra, that was a movie as well.
A movie in the
wasn't it?
70s, sure.
Yeah, so a lot of, American culture, it's very interesting. We know a lot about this Romanov story. It's kind of infamous in
Timeless
a way.
and-
Timeless.
An eternal mystery, truly, even though many of the questions have been fairly recently answered in terms of DNA, there's still a mystery to it, and our production takes the sort of myth of the whole idea of the facts of what happens and pursues the fairy tale aspect of it, the myth aspect of it.
And so this production, gosh, the first reading I could find record of was April 24th, in 2012. You guys opened April 24th, 2017. So the original production had Angela Lansbury in it.
Yes.
Sorry, the original reading.
Yep.
And so were any of you in it from the beginning? Can you speak about the history of how it got to
I
where
don't
it is
think
now?
any
None
of
of
us
us
were
from
in
the
it from the
beginning,
very,
no.
very beginning.
But you were in it from the workshops.
Well,
We did.
the
Out of
Hartford
Town.
out of town. But I remember, this show had been kicked around for quite some time. I would say about 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And so there were lots of readings, and I'd gone in a few times, and they'd always say, "Oh, she's too young. She's too young." So my last audition, I was like, wearing long, like I tried to look as old and mature as, and they said you're old enough now. So I was grateful.
Kind of speak to that. When you're developing a musical, it takes, I don't think I know of a musical that didn't take at least 8 years to be brought to Broadway.
Yeah.
So when you're doing these readings and workshops, a lot of the projects you work on early on will take many, many years and many, many different creative team changes even before you'll see the final product of what you get.
You could even age out of the part that you played in a reading in the very beginning
Yes.
stage. Yeah, that happens.
Or age into it.
Or age into it, like in my case.
Even more so, there was a conversation had in rehearsals where Stephen even mentioned that he was trying to reconnect with that 90s Stephen Flaherty to figure out what the sound was when he was writing the movie back in the 90s or 80s even, what that sound was, because he's progressed so much as a composer.
20 years later.
He was like, oh, how did I write when I was, 30-something? And it was a really interesting conversation to have.
Because you may know, they wrote a bunch of new songs for the stage version.
So
5 or
many
6
more.
from the film.
Yeah, there was
the
24
iconic
new ones or something.
That's a bunch. There's a lot,
Yeah.
including
Yeah.
reprises and stuff.
So you
Yeah, yeah.
think, oh, it's
Terrific
just
new
going to be an exact replication. There's so much that's changed,
Yeah.
and there's so much. If you love our composers, the new music is unbelievable.
It's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, even the bad guy. The
Yeah.
bad guy's totally different from the movie. So
Yeah. Sure.
no Rasputin, right?
Yeah.
No.
There's a handsome dark character.
Oh, you like him, huh?
Well, it leaves it up to interpretation.
I was going to ask you later if. Okay. Do you want to set up the context for your possible relationship with
Gleb?
With Gleb, yeah.
Well, so what I really love about this musical is that it does tie in real Russian history, and as we all know, during that time period, the fall of the Bolshevik Revolution, which is where they went from a monarchy to king and queen to communism, and you have this guy that's kind of working his way up the ranks, this evil character Gleb, and he's not really evil. He's just a misunderstood guy. His family. Well, his dad. You come to find out his dad was a part of the firing squad for the Romanov family. So he has a lot of guilt inside of him, dealing with and then dealing with his family and what is honor and what is the right thing to do versus the wrong thing to do when you're ordered to kill a bunch of kids. So over time, he runs into Anya, and then he kind of has a crush on her, and also it's kind of like I feel like it's a little bit like The Hunchback, where if you know anything about The Hunchback, how it's kind of like the bad guy loves Esmeralda but also hates her. So it's kind of like this: he loves her but he also wants to kill her at the same time.
And the Bolsheviks, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Gleb is in love with her but also
Right.
yeah.
So why do you think the choice was made to actually switch the character completely? Just a magical sorcerer was not going to
Well,
play.
Rasputin was not a magical sorcerer. For those of you that,
The real
that
Rasputin
only know
existed.
the cartoon, he wasn't a jolly ne'er-do-well. He was a pretty despicable human being. And he was long dead, actually dead, had been taken out by some of the, not the Tsar, but those directly underneath the Tsar, because Rasputin was way too close to the royal family. He had the Empress, the Tsarina, Alexandra, under his thumb in terms of only I can take care of your young sick boy, because there were the 4 daughters, and then the youngest boy was a hemophiliac, and so Alexandra wanted to do everything she could, and a friend of hers said, get this mystic guy in and all of a sudden he was hanging out in the Grand Duchess's, the daughters' bedrooms late at night, and a lot of the court said, get him out, and so they murdered him. They had him brutally killed, and so he's, if you know the history, he's long dead when the events of the show start. So I think that was the initial way to create a more real.
I didn't know that. That historically that was different like that. That makes a lot of sense to change
And
it
it
up.
makes sense because the whole thing is it took a long time for him to die, because they think he's this mystic, so they kept trying to kill him in real life, and he couldn't die. So I think they use that for the cartoon. It's like kind of a joke that he's not really dead yet. Because in real life, anyway.
But if you are a fan of the movie, though, the theme Rasputin sings in The Dark of the Night, it comes up multiple times. Actually, it's the theme of a song called Stay, I Pray You in our show, which is a beautiful group number talking about leaving your country for the last time. And so if you do come to see the show and you love Rasputin and those numbers, they're there. You just have to be really, really keen in on
really
that.
hard.
Yeah.
Same thing with at the beginning with you.
Yeah.
There's some little underscoring.
So the characters are obviously well known, both I guess historically and from the movies now. Do you find that people are always trying to compare you, like your roles now, to what was in the movies, the characters?
Well, I think they tend to say that we got it, but I like to think that we acknowledge the character in the film. They're animated characters in the film, but certainly the voice performance is what we can take. And certainly what I took cues from.
Yeah,
Kelsey
we
Grammer's
honor it.
You honor it.
You honor it, but you don't.
To do a slavish imitation doesn't serve anyone really, and so I honor it and
I honor it.
add my own stuff into it.
I think once you're seeing the show, you kind of forgot it was a movie. When you're sitting in the theater, you come in with this expectation, but once it starts, we kind of pull you in a lot of directions right at the beginning, and we send you a million different directions, a million different thoughts, and you don't really think about, oh wait, what happened in the movie,
It's very much its own theatrical event, as opposed to any sort of slavish recreation of either of the films.
It's not.
Well, yeah, I want to talk about the set too for a second, because the set itself is, gosh, I don't even know how to describe it. There's like this massive arc made of, it's supposed to be this marble thing, or it's a castle, it's the city, it's the walkway, it's all this multi-purpose set that doesn't move but yet rotates and changes. What was like you guys when you first saw it, what did you think of it?
That first day.
Absolutely thrilling. It's basically 508 or something, 506, 508 TV monitors. The entire back wall is, and each monitor is responsible for its own tiny little piece of the
whole picture.
visual
Like a
puzzle.
puzzle, yeah.
And they're able to do some really amazing things. I believe we're the only Broadway show that uses that technology. I know it's been used at Radio City Music Hall, but I believe we're the first to use it.
And do you remember that first day that he came in and showed us what the show was gonna be?
He would show it to us on an iPhone and then say, here's what's going to be happening behind you. You know, time it out,
shock.
go. But yes, there were days where they brought us all to the audience and said, you need to sit and watch what's going
so you
on
know
behind you.
how cool.
And it's really amazing.
pretty cool.
It's really spectacular.
Yeah.
We do a really cool view of Paris. They actually sent our videographer, our video designer, Aaron Ryan, went to Paris and filmed a lot of the locations because Act 2 takes place all in Paris. And they put together this amazing video sequence of a whirlwind tour through Paris, including an elevator ride to the top of the Eiffel Tower.
And you feel like you're
You
going
feel
to
like
the
you're
top.
going.
Yeah.
And the train, there's a train ride we take, which was the trio we
feel like you're on the
sang.
train.
It's on the train. And
Oh, the train itself is
It's
moving
moving.
and spinning. Yeah.
spinning around.
And you're
like a
moving
top.
with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was probably one of my favorite scenes, like that in the ballet too. Was watching the train and everything moving around because like you got the perspective and the video changes with the perspective as the train is. It's phenomenal. Go see it. Discount. Go
It's so
see it,
cool.
discount.
It's so cool.
Yeah. So the costumes too. Let's talk about the costumes.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Linda
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
Like period accurate,
Accurate.
amazing. Do you trip on them?
Yeah.
No.
Have you done
You
it?
do?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
trip on yours.
I tripped the other day. I don't even know what I'm saying. Yes, it happens. But
But not enough. I mean, they're
No.
well maintained. We have
They're
an
good.
amazing team of wardrobe staff, dressers backstage, and each piece is handmade. It didn't just go somewhere to go to Barney's rack and buy it or something. But I mean, each one is designed and
the rhinestones
Hundreds of
themselves.
costumes.
Like I'll remember the assistant was saying, "We've been up for 3 days sewing in rhinestones on your dress," and it really is. When you look at it, there's just rhinestones. It's beautiful.
And the Tsarina, Alexandra, her first dress, when she first comes out,
Sparkles.
seconds after the curtain goes up, the audience literally gasps
Just-
and often applauds.
I think
Yeah.
she
When
mentioned
she
the
comes out.
the crown she actually wears in the show is about 12 to 14 pounds.
Wow.
So she
can't
has a
walk
lot
around
going
with
on top of her head.
And the dress is 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a.
Is it
trooper.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, not to
Yeah.
take away, because me
My
and
dress is
John,
heavier.
we start the show in.
Well, it is. My
Is
red
it? The
dress.
red one?
My red dress is actually.
That's true. And you don't have straps. It's like a strap.
No, it's strapped.
But, yeah, we start
We
the show in about 80 pounds of fur.
Oh, that's
We
true.
make Russia look so cold, and I assure you,
Yeah.
when you get under those lights, I've never
Sweating.
sweat more in my life. So,
My favorite is Derek, who's not here. Like he'll be halfway through the show, and if I just go like this, it's like it's like so sweaty. You know when you're at the
Soaking
point
wet.
where just
Yeah.
the top of your hand is sweating. Yeah.
But no, the clothes are stunning. And she, Linda Cho, our amazing designer, has been rightfully lauded for not just her detail to historical accuracy, but for the whimsy and the true artistry of making it her own and theatrical. It's stunning, stunning clothes. We're lucky to wear them.
We're so lucky.
I mean, the
amazing.
attention to detail. I do an ensemble track in the show, and I changed my socks 4 times. Just my socks. To different colors and different patterns. That's how, and everyone across the board does that, which is, it's just fun. It's the little details like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I was going to ask you about the ensemble, the bit of it, because you go on every night, regardless of whether or not you're in as one of the leads here. So you play 4 different characters total, or is just 4 different socks you share?
4 different socks.
Characters who share socks.
I fill out the ensemble in many different aspects where we have a great group of people, and I might play, I think, 7 different characters in the ensemble throughout the show. But they're all like little bit on the train, I have a small scene.
They have a scene.
I'm a smoker. I'm a mean guy. So it's fun. It's fun because we are around 230 shows, I think, since we officially opened. And sometimes, you know, you get into the groove, and then all of a sudden I get to do a different part, and it's really fun. And it's a nice change up, nice change of pace.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the gig.
Yeah.
How
He's
much-
a great Dimitri.
Yeah, how much notice do you get normally?
Typically, if I'm lucky, someone has a vacation, and then I'll know months in advance. But it could be 3 hours before the show, 30 minutes before the show, or in a lot of cases, not a lot of cases, but it's happened, intermission will be the latest you'll go on, where that first act happens, and the actor's like, nope. And so they'll let you know, and they'll be like, hey, you're going to grab the second act. And be like, okay. So
You're going in the second act. Who's mean guy?
mean guy. Oh, well, we all are like 3 people deep. So everybody has someone behind them to step up.
Oh, that's
We
fun.
are dripping with talent.
Dripping with talent and fur sweat.
For sweat.
The response from the audience, I want you to talk about that a little bit. Is it different that you find from like maybe children or young adults who are less familiar with the movies versus people that are a little bit older who do know it?
Well, they certainly always love it. They always go
Yeah.
nuts,
go
which is
nuts.
an instantaneous pat on the back, and of course for any actor, and incredibly satisfying. But sure, the young people certainly like the kissing, almost as some act of horror for some of them. But they love it and scream and hoot and holler. And
It's crazy how this show has a little bit of something for everyone.
Yeah,
It
it's really-
depends on, my generation knows the cartoon, but then there's the generations who don't and they just love the story. And then there's people who really love the history. So you get a little bit of everything. Yeah.
But we don't get kids. We don't get like the itty bitties.
Which
It's
is
not really for them. It's
strange,
like teenagers and up,
Yeah.
tweens and up.
Yeah.
And it's, I would think, mostly young women who grew up with the film, loving the film.
So you brought my
And of course-
childhood to life because
Exactly.
they'll have stories of I sat every night after school every day. I'd sit with my mother and watch this movie. So you see, people have a really deep connection to this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You said that you don't have like tiny ones. I would expect
No.
that.
People
It's not
wanna
really
be-
right for the
Every
There
once
are
in-
some.
I mean, but
Not like.
comparatively to other shows we would consider family shows,
But like-
I would say that we have an older demographic.
Is there any bit of audience feedback that's like stuck out in your mind over the 200-something shows? Anything?
Thank you.
The-
Thank you for making this
Yeah.
stage show. I've been waiting for this for 20 years.
Yeah.
Is the
Wow.
thing we hear the
That's the
most
main-
and the thing that is the most satisfying to hear. And thank you for doing it right, is what we do.
Yes. And for me, once in a while, somebody from Russia that's
yeah.
much older will come up and take my hand and say,
You have so much
brought-"
sweat.
You're so sweaty. Thank you. They'll say, thank you so much. You brought my husband back to Russia, and they'll have tears in their eyes. So there's that, too.
Oh, and they send you candy. We were talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the candy is the best part.
So you have a little bit of a sweet
job,
tooth. We were talking
yes.
about this at lunch.
Yes. I love candy, and especially now I'm discovering candy from around the world because people from all over the world come to see Anastasia, and they'll bring their candy. And so I've been getting a lot of candy specifically from Russia because the show takes place in Russia, the first act, and it's a Russian story. So I have got a lot of Russian candy.
I keep sending it because it's good.
It's really good. Yeah, if you haven't had Russian candy,
It's very good.
go to
Or stand outside the stage door.
or just stand on the
Wait.
stage door.
Zach, this is your Broadway debut.
Yep.
Congratulations.
My first show.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks, guys.
What was it like for you to step out on stage? Like, you only have one first, right? Like, what was your first time going on?
I think the better story is the first time going on for Dimitri, where I toured for a year with another national tour from a different show. And when I was also an understudy in that. So when you start to understudy, when you get that call, you do a lot of preparation. We're in rehearsal every week, of the understudies, and we're working towards it. And it's a lot like being shot out of a cannon. There's a lot of adrenaline, and you have to be really aware of how you're monitoring your adrenaline and how intense you come off right away. You'll settle into it, and so
Yeah.
it's all about keeping a lid on it, and because Broadway is all about ease, and so I'm a younger guy, so I can get really excited really easily. So it's really important that right before the show, I have this guy next to me, and we just kind of calm down. And then we're like, what's the story? What's important? What's our relationship? What's our relationship? And it's about focusing on that. And I think it's really important because these relationships are why people love the show. So, if there's any kind of disconnect, if I'm thinking about how I'm looking or how I sound, then you won't believe it, It has to be about genuine connections on stage. So with these guys who do it every night with Derek, who's amazing, I have to find my own connections with them. And it's not about doing what Derek does, because Derek is true to himself. So I have to go out there and do what Zach is. So my Dimitri is a little more softer, a little more goofy.
It's
and
great.
it's about being believable as an understudy, and it's fun because I get to work with so many different incarnations of the show already. Yeah,
That's phenomenal. And I guess if you go on, do you go on frequently or not, or is it?
just in the last few months, I've really
Yeah.
been frequent.
Been on a lot.
And then, have you ever forgotten anything? I've always wondered,
yeah.
it's like,
the song we're about to do, I dropped a whole verse of last 2 times I was I mean 2 shows ago,
verse.
a half a verse.
You would have never noticed.
You did it with conviction.
There you go.
Dropped it with.
Because I mean, sometimes as an understudy, so this would be like I've done maybe 10 shows, performance, but I've maybe done 10 rehearsals, runs of the show. So this is 20 times doing it. And once you start getting comfortable with material, as you probably know, and once you start to memorize something, you have this second layer happening underneath it. You're like, oh, I'm saying this, but I'm thinking about 10 other things that's about to happen. And that's what happened during Petersburg. I was like, okay, the turntable's about to turn. I have to jump up on this bench, and I go, oh, what's the line? What am I saying? This is my solo. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
There's 1,100 people out there, and I'm looking at Christy like, my mic is...
But
yeah.
yeah, it was great.
We had a version of that during previews where we were rehearsing one version of the show during the day and performing another version of the show at night.
That was for you.
That was, well, for
He had
all
a
of us,
completely. Didn't you have?
Oh yeah,
like
we
a
completely redid the whole Paris sequence. But all of us, in terms of little lines here, verse changes, lyric changes there.
Yeah.
You know, you're rehearsing one thing during the day and performing the other for a paying audience at night. So that's a little terrifying sometimes.
and the other 2, I assume, both of you are perfect. Yes.
Oh, always.
Always, always, yes.
Usually, no.
So, Christy, you have a lot of theater credits yourself, and your own tours. You're off Broadway, of course, Mamma Mia on Broadway. So, how has your career changed? How has your career changed, I guess, since becoming Anya?
This is a huge step for me. I mean, I've been so lucky enough throughout my life to get to play so many amazing leading roles, but it's every actor's dream, I don't care who they are, to get to originate, because it's like you're the first person to put your stamp on a character, and this is my dream, and to have it be this show and these songs that I love so much, and this role, and it's just like everything snapped into place, and there's no words. I'm just so grateful, and in a way, as career-wise, I didn't expect it to be as crazy, because I've played leads before, so, but it's completely different from doing originating a role is completely different from replacing, in that there's so many press events like this, and there's so many, you're put out in the public eye more often. You have photo shoots sometimes, or you're, there's photo shoots, and there's all of these things, all these events and things, and it's crazy. There's definitely a lot more buzz and excitement around it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then to stay grounded, I guess, I was reading something that you learned the ukulele.
Oh yeah, I play the ukulele. I play the guitar. I write songs.
Do you?
Yeah.
And then, do you keep yourself, I guess, focused? I would think that with all the whirlwind of everything going around you, that you would need something to center yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, and I think the best advice I could give for anyone ever in this situation is to look at people before you. I think right before I went into this show, I went out to lunch with Sierra Boggess, who played the original Little Mermaid.
Really?
And I questioned anyone who has done this before me. Anyone who's ever. I hung out with Laura Osnes, who was just here for a bandstand, or tons.
You're in for Cinderella too.
Yeah, she was Cinderella. So talking to other people was really helpful, and they all had their own little helpful hints and little advice, things that got them through, and gave them a cool head.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
If any of you guys in the audience have questions, start lining up at the mics in the aisles. John.
Yes, sir.
You've got great Broadway credits as well. Click one of my favorites, Dames at Sea.
Oh gosh.
Guys and Dolls, Spam-A-Lot, How to Succeed.
Spam-A-Lot was fun.
So what attracted you to Anastasia?
Oh gosh, well, just the work. I knew it was going to be on I figured it was going to be a pretty big, fancy show, because it was the same director, choreographer, and designers of a show that I have great admiration for, called A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. And I knew I wanted to work with that team, and so they sent me the materials for the character Vlad, and I thought, I think I know who this guy is or could be, and I rented the film on Netflix, the cartoon, because I'd never seen it, and just to get the flavor of Mr. Grammer's vocal performance in my head. And I went in, and I figured my attitude is you keep showing up, you do your homework, you do your best. Once in a while, it's your turn to get the job, and that has served me pretty well for 25 years. And it was my turn to get the job, and I auditioned last. I went right after Christy and Derek. And
We were together.
yeah, and they called me
And
20
are
minutes
you?
later and said, you're going to get an offer, and that never happened. So it just seemed like it was serendipitous in a way, and it's been such a pleasure, because I grew up, loving all the old cast albums. My parents had all the records, of the Music Man and, South Pacific and Sound of Music and all just the classic shows that we had. And, I've originated other roles, but this is probably one of two most. I enjoyed A Christmas Story.
Oh, come on, A Christmas
Story was
Story.
fun. But I got to play the dad in A Christmas
So
Story on
good.
Broadway, which was a lot of fun.
A big kick line with the legs.
But this one is special because it's a really nice team, and I love doing it. And just the fact that some kid now is listening to us on an original cast album like we used to do is really thrilling. That's the real thrill for us.
Yeah.
And you also have been a headliner at the New York Pops Philharmonic.
I have, for sure. Yeah.
So can you explain what that is for those who may not have seen those concerts?
Oh, well, okay. The New York Pops is an amazing A-list orchestra that plays at Carnegie Hall. And because of my association with The Christmas Story, perhaps, I'm eternally Christmas guy, apparently. And so I host and perform in their annual Christmas concert, which is for young people. This past year we did 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, which I memorized. Thank you very much. And the past year was the anniversary of it was the 50th anniversary of Charlie Brown Christmas. So here's the New York Pops, this huge, amazing orchestra playing that amazing Vince Guaraldi score. It was just thrilling to be on stage with that. And the year before was the 50th anniversary of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas special. So we did all the music from those. And it's a thrill. And Carnegie Hall was Guys and Dolls as well. So always a pleasure to work there, a thrill.
So do you enjoy having the full orchestra literally on stage with you, behind you, or underneath the stage and supporting you? The stage versus...
As long as I can hear them, I'm happy. And as long as I can... Well, the challenge with the orchestra at the New York Pops is the conductor is behind you. And because of unions and the way things are, you've rehearsed it once with the orchestra, and then it's sold out Carnegie Hall, go. So that can be a bit terrifying, and it usually involves a lot of homework on my end. But so I like the comfort of having the orchestra right there in front of me.
And you can actually, the conductor, you can see from stage, right?
Sure, you can see him without looking right at him. You see the hand going. We also have these monitors mounted on the lower part of the balcony that the audience doesn't see, where we have a good shot of the conductor.
Yeah, and do you enjoy, the straight concert style stand and sing, or do you like being you seem like an animated guy.
I like both, you shake it up, do a little of each. But the concerts, sometimes right before you go on, you think, they're usually a one-off. Like you can do it once or twice with very little rehearsal. And right before you go on, you think, why did I say yes to this? I'm absolutely mortified. But I like a mix of both. Because then you do it and it hopefully goes well and you wind up being proud of it. So I like both. I like everything. Want to do it all.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you so much for coming. Anastasia was my favorite movie growing up, and then I just moved to New York, and it was my first Broadway show.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for making it a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
I would just love to know for the three of you, what is the moment of the show that you most look forward to? Before the curtain comes up, what are you excited to have happen on stage?
All right.
Oh.
There's this. I have one.
You say it.
Go.
I only get to go on every once in a while. So my favorite part is I get to make fun of John on stage during Learn to Do It. And the line is, because Christy's character is mad that we're pushing her too hard to be a princess. And
This is your favorite
This is
part?
my favorite thing because it
Okay.
makes John laugh. And if you make a
Yes, it
funny
does.
person laugh, it makes you feel really good. So, and so we learned to do it. And I got a note. I was on for the week. And they were like, oh, well, you're not mimicking John's bow. the line is, you're bowing and kowtowing. It's all his years of bowing and kowtowing. That's why he can't stand up straight anymore. And I asked John, and I was like, can you show me your bow? And he goes, oh, it's the Annie pose.
I was joking. I didn't know you were serious.
Oh, I was very serious. But will you do the Annie pose? Yes. And we get out there during Learn to Do It, and I was like, oh, it's all his years of bowing and kowtowing, and he broke, and I was having a good time. And that's my favorite moment. My favorite moment now is to think of something else that will make him laugh, because making him laugh makes me laugh. So.
Making John laugh is pretty fun.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Sorry,
It's pretty fun. Once in a while, you make John laugh. It's funny.
But you try not to have the audience.
No,
If you feel like
it's
it's
always
spoiling the show,
tasteful.
you don't want to do it.
No,
but
John never
I
spoils
would
the
never
show.
do that. My favorite part, actually, I love doing the train sequence because it's the happy village, happy travelers, and we're all hopeful. And I love doing the number with Caroline, the big tango we do. The amazing Caroline O'Connor plays Lily, who I sing about in what you just heard. And we have a good time together. But my favorite part of the show is getting ready. I know that sounds so silly, but
It's so fun.
our dressing rooms are Ramin, me, Derek, and we always blast like 70s or 80s rock. And it's just, we just have a good time getting ready.
Yeah, I'll order dip usually. Like I get to work and then there's like this dip that I order for the cast. My room ends up being like the green room for the cast because we don't have a green room, like an area for the cast to congregate. So my room is larger. So I'll have snacks and candy for everyone, and I buy this dip and we eat it with pretzels, and it never gets old. We've been eating it
For
like,
weeks.
For since
Now
the
they
beginning.
just deliver it.
No, it's
Truly,
funny
they
because
could
last time
deliver
they
it.
were like, you should use the app, because I've been using Seamless, but they have their own special app. They're like, 10% off if you use the app, because I buy so much of this dip. And it just makes me so happy as people come in one after the next before the show starts.
But we can't be, pounding this garlic stuff all show. Because as you know, I make out with Caroline for an extended period during the show, and you guys kiss.
I have a toothbrush.
Okay.
No, my breath
you
is
need
pretty
another
bad. My breath is pretty bad the whole show. Is
We can tell when she's been pounding that dip.
I also like to eat. I also like
always
to eat Greek
apologizes.
salad during the show, so my breath smells like onion most of the time.
It's a really intense moment, and she'll whisper. She'll be like,
But now
I'm
it's
so sorry.
it's the smell of home.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. I'm very professional.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Hi, I wanted to ask about the process of recording the cast albums, and like, how does that work? Do you do it in a studio, and like, how is it different for you than like performing on stage?
Well, we did it in a very famous studio on 53rd Street. Avatar Studios, it's called now, but it's where like Springsteen recorded Born to Run and
Is that really where Springsteen recorded Born to Run?
Yeah,
lots of
Born in the USA. That whole.
Yeah.
Many iconic.
Did you see that
pieces,
documentary?
But it's so good. It's so good. But no, we go into a recording studio. It's usually we have a separate producer for that. Wonderful guy named Van Deen who works at Broadway Records. There's usually a bidding war to see which company is going to release the CD, or the cast
And it's
album.
one day.
And we do it in a day, and they augmented our. We already have a fairly large orchestra
Just the
for
vocal.
Broadway show, but
For the actors.
we added a few pieces, and you go in, you do it piece by piece in a day, and we recorded "Learn to Do It," which we do the three people running around the stage like crazy. Christy was in this room over here, I'm in this room over here, and Derek was over here, and we have the cans, so you hear everything, and the orchestra's playing live there. And
Yeah, but I remember after we did it, the next couple days, I like kept going to the writers and being like, if you want me to come back in, and just sing Journey to the Past a couple more times, and they were like, no, we got it, and I didn't believe them. And then when I heard the album, they just did a fantastic job.
But also they tried to elicit more color from your voice because the listening audience doesn't have the benefit of the visual, obviously. So for a lot of things, they were like, say that word like it sounds or like it feels, because we don't have the benefit of the visual. So it's a different thing, but it sure is a fun thing.
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm in all these things that I've interviewed, all these Broadway events, I've never asked that. That's a very interesting thing. I had no idea you guys do that in a day.
Yeah, I would say the hardest thing is what he was talking about, putting the color in your voice.
Yeah.
Really communicating the idea without your face.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's amazing. All right, well, we have a little bit of time left. I want to get to these last two songs, but before we go, is there one feeling, is there one just moment that you wish people will take away, hope people will take away with them after seeing this show? How do you hope their lives are changed?
Well, we're a lot of people's first Broadway show. Hello. And so I hope they come back. Not just to our show, but that they see we are a classic Broadway show. You know, we're not trying to rewrite anything, but it's a classic, beautifully designed Broadway show with great tunes and we think exciting story.
And in this crazy world, to escape
To escape.
and to just feel that sense of warmth inside is it's a nice feeling.
And you see your ticket money on stage in terms of the amazing sets and costumes, and so I would say,
it's worth the price of admission.
it's worth it. Come check out a classic Broadway show.
And the nostalgia.
Nostalgia.
The nostalgia of the movies. Yeah.
Transported.
Well, looks like we've got one more question here.
I wanted to ask, since you're all obviously very successful, which is really great, but what was your trigger? Did you see your first Broadway show or something that you knew you wanted to do this or be in this line of work?
Yes. Who wants to start? I can start.
Go ahead.
So I guess I think it's an interesting thing. When I was really little, I used to run around singing all the time, and I would make a stage anywhere. If I was at the beach, I would throw a towel down and stand on it and scream, "This is my stage." And luckily, I had parents who just fed that and gave me lots of lessons and gave me the opportunity to do this and told me that it was possible to do anything I wanted in my life. And I think that a lot of times, people aren't as lucky, and I was just lucky that it was something I loved from childhood, and my parents just kept saying, "You can do it, you can do it." It wasn't one specific show or anything. I just always it was in me from childhood.
Cool. A similar thing. Grew up with the music of the shows in the house, and then when I was very young, my parents took me along to New York, and we saw The Wiz and Annie. And with Annie, there were kids on stage. Oh my God, they're my age. Look what they're doing. This looks like the life. And so that sort of planted it.
No, school.
It's a different kind of school, that's for sure. No, I majored in journalism in college. I have a BA in journalism, and because it was never really an option. No one ever said, "Do you want to do this?" And when I was in high school, I certainly wasn't ready. We did high school musicals, but I did my best. At best, I had energy. That was about the most that could be said about any performance skill I had. So it was never an option. So I majored in journalism. But during college, I did a lot of regional theater, community theater in the Rochester, New York area, and learned from some people, and decided to put my toe in the water in New York, and here it is a few years later. So, yeah.
I was actually a late bloomer. I started theater as a hobby in high school. Didn't really get into it till my junior year. And senior year was kind of rolling around, and I had another option on the table. So it was either kind of jump in and start auditioning for these college programs or kind of walk away. So I had a mentor that really believed in me, and she pushed me, and she got my material together, and I went to all these colleges, and I auditioned, and I went to college. I got a bachelor's of music, and I moved here, and it was really just, the thing about this business is it's about being at the right place at the right time, and then having talent or having a good work ethic. There's no one thing. A lot of it I account to luck, and a lot of it it's just about being prepared. So I kind of just got swept up into it when I was a senior in high school and never really looked back. And so I do remember one specific, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. And so I went to the touring shows in Cleveland all the time when I was in high school. And there was one production, I was sitting out there with my girlfriend at the time, and I turned to her and I went, I think I could handle myself with these people. I think I could be at their level. I see myself as an equal. And from then on, I was like, all right, we're gonna go for it. No looking back. Either you do it or you don't. So.
Cool. Yeah, so everyone visit them, AnastasiaBroadway.com, at AnastasiaBway on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, at the Broadhurst Theater, 235 West 44th Street. Yeah, we'll finish this off with two more songs, but everybody help me thank them for coming out.
Thank you. You're amazing.
Thank you. All right.
I grew up on the sly in the gutters and the streets of Petersburg. Just a kid on the fly, getting good at getting by in Petersburg. I bartered for a blanket, stole my bread, learn to take my chances and use my head. A Russian rat is clever, or he ends up dead. Boils down to there are some who survive, some who don't, some give up, some give in. Me, I won't. Black and blue, welcome to my Petersburg. Standing here, you can see from the spires to the piers of Petersburg. I'd be down on that quay, selling stolen souvenirs of Petersburg. The palaces above and alleyways below. Funny how a city is all you know. How even when you hate it, something in you loves it so. That's where I learned my stuff, in some rough company. There's the boy growing up who was me, all I've been, all I'll be. We can do what we're told, we can go where we're led, but I learned from my father to see what's ahead. Nothing here to hold me, no one that I know. Funny how a boy can grow. Funny when a city tells you when it's time to go. Boils down to there are some who have walls yet to climb. You and I on the fly, just in time. But tonight there's a sky and quite a view. Welcome to my Petersburg.
Heart, don't fail me now. Courage, don't desert me. Don't turn back now that we're here. People always say life is full of choices. No one ever mentions fear or how the world can seem so fast. On a journey to the past. Somewhere down this road, I know someone's waiting. Years of dreams just can't be wrong. Arms will open wide. I'll be safe and wanted. Finally home where I belong. Well, starting now, I'm learning fast on this journey to the home, love, family. There was once a time I must have had them too. Home, love, family. I will never be complete until I find you. One step at a time, one hope then another. Who knows where this road may go? Back to who I was, on to find my future. Things my heart still needs to know. Yes, let this